Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of June 10, 2018. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. What an amazing week it is. We have an active sky and we have a new moon, as well as an active Uranus and planets on the move. I'm so excited to tell you about it all. So let's start with the new moon. Right in the middle of the week, we will have a new moon in the sign of Gemini, and it will be speaking with Neptune. Now, this is a type of conversation that the new moon is having with Neptune that astrologers call a square, and it is one of some tension. Now, think back to last week. We had an active Neptune as well. Neptune was speaking with the sun and speaking with Mercury and kicked up really this active energy of not necessarily being very grounded. That was key. It felt a little bit like, for some people, that we'd stepped into a Mercury retrograde, even though we hadn't. And so it felt like communications weren't being fully understood, but also ourselves and our own thought patterns are highlighted here. The sign of Gemini has to do with communications and social media and online connections, text messages, phone calls, all of that, but also our spontaneous interactions with other people. But it also has to do with perception. It has to do with our own thought process and how we are integrating and understanding and interpreting what is happening in the world around us, but also what is happening within us. Over the course of this past week, we've had some very powerful examples of the ways in which Neptune squaring the sun and Mercury, how it is that this conversation can sometimes lend itself to thought patterns that are not necessarily measured or balanced or grounded. And that's a really nice way to put it. Of course, we've had these very high profile examples of Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain passing away. And to me, as I saw these cultural examples that reached me on a very deep level, it felt very much like I wish that these amazing people out there, these sensitive souls out there, I wish that they could reach out. And so I feel compelled to share with you that given that this week Neptune is going to continue to be active, it isn't going to be until we get to the very end of the week that the energy becomes more grounded. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but suffice it to say, given that maybe some of us are not necessarily seeing things as lovingly as they deserve to be seen, as optimistically as they deserve to be seen, especially those of us out there who are sensitive souls at that, this can be a very valuable time to reach out to others and also to ask and to connect with others more proactively as well. It takes a lot of courage, of course. It takes a lot of emotional clarity in order to even admit that we need other people. But that is something that we need. We need to feel connected to others. And actually, I think this is why astrology is so attractive to a lot of people. I think this is why astrology has remained really the only ancient practice that continues to survive and thrive in the world today. It is a part of popular mass culture in a way that really no other ancient practice is. And the reason for that is because it affirms our interconnection. It means that we aren't these isolated beings sort of walking around a will of our own, a universe of our own, but actually we have this sense of a deeper meaning and a deeper purpose that comes through some recognition of our interconnection with our universe, with our sky, and of course that means with each other as well. And so I'm going to say, with these sensitivities on offer this week in the sky this week, where it is and where you can, reach out to others and allow others to reach out to you also. Now, I would also say that as we get to the end of the week, and really even as we're starting this week, Neptune is slowing down, and will actually at the beginning of next week stand still in the sky and go retro. So I'll talk more about the Neptune retrograde season coming up. And I'll talk more about that. We're technically in the season because Neptune is in shadow, but the actual Neptune retrograde, I'll talk about that next week. But suffice it to say, this is going to magnify those Neptunian energies that much more. But again, at the end of this week, this grounding energy comes in. So let me talk about what that grounding energy is. Well, it really has to do with Mercury and Saturn. Early in the week, Mercury will change signs and will move into the sign of Cancer. As he moves into the sign of Cancer, he will reach out and speak in harmony with Uranus. This is so nice, I must say. I love this energy because I feel like this is conversations that we may have with people that we are connected to in some way. So whether it is people from our family of origin, people who come from the same place, whatever we identify as home. Now that can be very unique given on who you are and how you identify home, which can be deeply personal, especially in our modern world. But keep this in mind. For some people, home is a country. For some, it is an ethnicity. For some, it is a shared tradition. For others, it is a city. For others, it is a neighborhood. But whatever it is that you identify as home, this can be a powerful time of randomly running into people who represent this sense of home to you, and in the process, receiving some clarity, receiving joy. Yes, I think Mercury speaking in harmony with Uranus can be that one saving grace, can be that one little window that allows us to allow lightness in when it is that Neptune can make things so foggy. And so this can be that little bit of a window that allows us to welcome in new information and really welcome in joy as well. However small the moment may seem on the surface, it actually can reach people very, very deeply. Now, I'll tell you, normally I talk about my own stuff like towards the end, but I will share this, and it's been coming up recently in the last few months, and I've been sharing it on things like Facebook Lives and the lives that I do, the hangouts that I do with superstars, and I've been sharing about when I was a teenager. It was very hard for me. It was a very hard time. I know what was happening in my chart. Lots of really difficult things were happening in my chart as well. Like basically as I entered the teenage years, right, beyond adolescence, I had my Saturn opposition, which happens to everybody right around 14. But then I had Saturn begin a series of conjunctions to my Sun. And so that should tell you right there, and other things happening in my chart, that should tell you right there, it wasn't an easy time. And it was very, very hard. And I remember those days when going to an appointment and just a bus driver smiling at me, that was enough to get me through a day. Like that would be enough to make me feel strong enough to move forward for one more day. And it really can be like that simple, and that seemingly small thing that can be so meaningful to another person as it was for me. It was those small moments, those little exchanges, talking to somebody as I was just running to the store really quickly, or at a bus stop or something. That few seconds, really, you are alleviating someone's pain, you are saving someone's life. And so I feel that with this Mercury speaking with Uranus, this will be the grand reminder, the great reminder, if you will, that there are these small ways in which we can lighten our load, but also we can lighten the burdens that other people feel, even if those are things that they may never tell us and we may never know, especially directly from them. As we get to the very end of the week, Mercury will stand across the sky from Saturn. This is that grounding energy. I think this is going to provide a really nice sort of balancing measure given all that very, very ephemeral energy of Neptune. This is what is going to allow us to actually realize where we are, realize what we're willing to work towards, and realize what it takes for us as part of our own unique journey to be more grounded and to feel more grounded at that. I also think this should make for some interesting interactions with other people. Ultimately, when two planets stand across the sky from each other, this is called an opposition. And what that means is that these can play out in terms of our interactions, but our relationships as well. And it may be at this time that someone else gives us a perspective that is a bit of a reality check. Now, I don't want to be all Pollyanna about this, of course. There are different ways to interpret this, but I will also say this can feel like a lot of responsibility coming from outside of us, whether it is a person in a position of authority or someone who's just acting like they're the boss of us when we really don't want that or don't think that they are. There are ways in which we can use that moment and use that experience to realize for ourselves what it is that we truly desire to focus on, to achieve. What is it ultimately that's going to bring a greater sense of stability and a greater sense of self-respect in our life as well. And so as part of the mystery, we can attract these different experiences that in some way end up being a great blessing as well. And I do think Saturn speaking with Mercury, that may end up being the great blessing at this time. Finally, this week, Venus is on the move. In the first part of the week, Venus will move into the sign of Leo, bringing about a certain boldness where it comes to our love expression, but also our fashion choices as well can get a little bit more daring and a little bit more confident. We should also see this being played out in a larger way, in a cultural way, where we see celebrities in particular, which is covered by the sign of Leo, making more daring fashion choices as well. But the thing to remember with this week is that Venus will, after she enters this new part of the sky, will move forward and speak with Uranus. Uranus, of course, had a brand new part of the sky over the course of the last few weeks. And this is a conversation that astrologers call a square. It is a conversation of some tension. And it tells me that any big changes that people are wanting to make, I would be a little bit careful with that, especially with a sky like this. This is not an energy, regardless of where Venus falls for you in your chart. If you know your chart, you know your astrology chart, just keep in mind that with the way that Venus is speaking with Uranus, any kind of experiments may not necessarily go the way that we want, where it comes to our fashion choices, hair color choices, cosmetic procedure choices. I would also say with this tattoos as well, I would avoid that with this sky if you can. You know, of course, sometimes you got to get that tattoo. I'm guessing that's the case for some people, but if you have a choice, then that may be something to avoid, at least over the course of this week, because with Venus speaking to Uranus, it's as if what comes about is very different and very unexpected than what we had hoped, and may not necessarily get us the result and the response that we had hoped for. Now, if you're doing what you've always done, right, you're tried and true, like you always wear beige, for example, then yeah, if you're buying more beige stuff in the style that you always buy it in, it should be okay. However, if you always wear beige and now you're thinking about wearing red, that's where, you know, you might want to be mindful that, okay, I'm experimenting and it could go in different ways, you know, but at the end of the day, as I like to say, it's just hair. And what I mean by that is really so much of what we think is so permanent and so consequential ultimately really isn't. And so if you want to change your hair color, if you want to do something very different, why not? Have at it, have fun. Now, of course, Venus is goddess of love. And so if we're talking about Venus, we have to also talk about our romantic exchanges as well, our romantic experiences as well. I would say this is not necessarily the week to be planning big love-related surprises. It just could end up going in directions you didn't anticipate. This may not also be the week to declare feelings or to move in a direction of greater flirtation where that hasn't been there before. So that is something to keep in mind as well. If you have been feeling things very strongly and you wanted to declare your feelings, then if you can, pace yourself a little bit. It'll probably be a good thing in the bigger picture. At least pace yourself beyond this week as well. You add to the fact that Neptune is, as I said, slowing down to a standstill as we get to the later part of the week. And chances are we may not necessarily be seeing things as from a grounded perspective as would be most desired and most ideal. And so, again, if you're making some big romantic declarations, you've had your eye on somebody for 2 years and you really want to ask them out, if you can, try to wait until at least next week. Next week, we've got beautiful, beautiful energy happening. I can't wait to tell you about it. And of course, I'll talk about it as we go along. But I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up. We have this beautiful grand trine, Mercury, Jupiter, Neptune grand trine. It is going to bring all kinds of inspired information and a real lift for a lot of people, a real sense of getting news or having a conversation that makes it feel like a dream came true, and having synchronistic moments that are deeply meaningful as well. Again, I'll talk a lot more about that next week, but I'm mentioning it now because there is so much that is so good that we have to look forward to. There is so much that is so inspired that we have to look forward to. And so even if there is a bit of a fluctuation where it comes to emotion, even if there is a moment where it feels like we're not connecting the way that we would like to the things that we know give our life purpose, that really is okay, because ultimately it is these moments that make those times of connection, that make those times of purpose, that make those times of grounding that much more meaningful and really that much more consequential as well. It is in these times when we're, figuring out that there's some questions and we don't really know what they are, that ultimately lead to answers. And those answers are coming. They're deeply moving, deeply meaningful. When I look ahead at the bigger picture, you really realize how much there is to celebrate, how much there is to explore, and how much more there is to experience in this life. We truly are so fortunate. Let these events of the last week and where we are right now, let it be a reminder that we are fortunate to have this very moment. My dad likes to say, if you have hope, you have everything. You always, always have to have hope. Like, that is one of his mantras. You just never give up hope. And that is something that I think shows up in so much of what I share and so much of what I believe. And I think that there's so much coming up that gives us very tangible and real reasons to hold on and also to celebrate all the hope that we have. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'm so grateful for it. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, thumbs up. It means so much. And you can find out how all this wonderful stuff this week, what it means for you and your sign. Well, you can find out about that by going to nadiyashah.com or astrofabulous.com. Sign up to be one of my superstars. Superstars get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, and so much more. All of this in the superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. Now, I also have special horoscopes on my website as well at nadiyashah.com. You can get them unlimited access as a superstar, or you can get them as individual downloads. So all of that is there on my website, nadiyashah.com. I love interacting with you guys online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course the YouTube comments as well. And thank you so much for this moment with you. And thank you so much for really all the ways in which I feel so blessed and all the ways in which you guys give me hope as well, and the safe space in which we have to share. And just remember, just reach out, communicate with others. You would be amazed how many people there are in the world who want to share love, who want to experience that genuine sense of connection with another person. You really are not alone in that. And regardless of how this week goes, whether you are a sensitive soul and you're feeling that sense of emotional fluctuation, or you've got other things happening in your chart and you're feeling really grounded, be there for yourself and for others. Well, thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.